Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Friday. Do you know it's Friday? Because I just found out it was Friday like a couple of hours ago, and it's completely crazy that it's already Friday. All right, so welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm in my house, right? So you can see the counter. It's all clean, right? Like, let me just move these prescriptions. I'm sure my wife would appreciate that. She's sleeping in the other room. So I'll try not to be too loud, right? All right, we seem like we got everyone in. So let's get to some updates, right? Automations are oh, that's kind of bright, right? The I just try not to, how do I cover that? All right, I'll move in a little bit. So the automations have been like a bane of our existence, right? So every day we are literally working 24/7 on those automations, and more stuff just keeps popping up. Now, that's not to be confused with no progress. I think we're at 97, 98% of the way there. The problem with automation, oh, it gives me a halo. Yeah, I love that. The problem with only being 98% is when you go ahead and allow it to run, that 2% of error means what? Does that mean someone's going to get a million coin out of nowhere? Does that mean 2% of people don't get any coin? Does that mean 2% of people get duplicate coin? Those are the things that it's like police officers, like airplane pilots. You can't afford to have a couple of bad apples. It's just not allowed. For instance, if 2% of airplane pilots crash the plane, it'd be very easy to say, yeah, well, it's a couple of bad apples. Well, you can't really have bad apples in that field, right? Like nobody's getting on a plane if 1 out of 50 crash. Same thing with police officers. If you have a couple that are just shooting up the community, well, we had a couple of bad apples. No, you can't have any bad apples. You need to have 0 bad apples. Same thing with our automations. So it's been bothersome to me because I come out here and I say that the automations are done. And then our RHINO team, we give full discretion to, right? Like we don't micromanage. We allow those that are best at what they do to do what they're best at. So when I speak to Steve, who's the head of app development, and he goes, Ant, I'm just really not comfortable where it is right now. I don't sit there and say, well, it's got to go out. No, Steve, this is your thing, right? So I'm kind of in the boat with you, but I'm here to update you every single day. In lieu of the automations being now, if you held a GUN up to my head, I would say they'll be done by Monday. In fact, that's me believing they're going to be done by today or tomorrow. But if I could have till Monday, I really, really, really believe they'll be done, only because we believe they were going to be done 2 weeks ago. So every day thereafter is really kind of just knocking out the last couple of things, which is great because this is not just, all right, we have some software. We have an asset that no one else in the world has, right? Like we're the only platform in the entire world that you can buy. You can invest in coin recurring and have it delivered to your wallet. Now, someone said to me the other day, well, you could kind of do that on Binance and Coinbase. You could set it up for recurring payments. Yes. And then they had shared to me in the DEX coin space, and that's what it's called, right? The DEX coin space is referred to as a space that allows creators to come up with custom coins. So you have your Bitcoins of the world, your Ethereums, your Polkadots, like the really, really big projects that have gone through every and everything. Well, it's hard to say that because FTX also went through every and everything, but the big name players. And then the smaller name players that are the startups, they don't have that same luxury. No one is putting RHINO on their platform and saying, hey, don't worry, we're just going to let people buy it nonstop. Which is good. It shouldn't be, right? Like I'm biased to RHINO, but I understand the rationale as a reasonable adult that Binance isn't saying, hey, Ant, yeah, you just started this thing. I know it sounds cool, but we're just going to let it pass every test. So we'll pass the test ourselves. And that's the way it should be because we want to compete with others that pass similar tests. The point of the story being, there is so many different marketers, promotions. The entire world makes money on the internet. So when you have something like crypto, that garners a lot of interest. I would actually say that 1% of the people that are interested in crypto are actually in crypto. And every time I speak to any RHINO, they say, Ant, I really don't understand this stuff. And then they're surprised that I say, neither do I. I have no clue. I know behavioral economics. I know market structure. I know behavioral science. Crypto allows me the platform to express, represent, and profit off of that. And by profits, I mean everyone. If I was allowed to go ahead and do an IPO tomorrow and sell stock to the entire world and have Goldman Sachs do it for me and blah, 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 and it didn't cost $1 billion and it was easy to do, I probably would. But because I can't do that, I can do the same exact thing in crypto. But I have to learn enough to know how to do it. And more importantly, I have to be able to teach enough to let others know how to do it. But even more importantly than that, I have to create the system that allows everyone to feel comfortable that they know what they're doing and why they're doing it. That's the stuff, that's the difference between having a good idea and executing on the idea, right? Like the person that cures cancer is not the person that was the first person to think of how it would be a good idea to cure cancer. It's about how do you actually do it. So to be able to democratize and be able to redistribute out the wealth that each individual inherently is worth by being able to reveal it and distribute it, well, that's pretty cool, right? Like I don't think I'm the first person to ever think of, well, I know everyone makes money off me, but I don't make money. How is that? I would like to solve that. Right? Like every time you click something, every time you shop somewhere, every time you ever do anything that you do, someone's making money off you. Yet the majority of people I say that to, and includes all of us, the 99%, are living paycheck to paycheck. Are like, how is everyone making money off me? I don't even make money off me. And what RHINO seeks to do is to go ahead and, what's the word I'm looking for? To peel it back, right? To go ahead and do the autopsy on how the money's made and to then correct it so that the proceeds go to the right people. Even when I say that out loud, it sounds complicated. So let me take a step back and share with you what our RVP group has accomplished this week. Our RVP group is amazing, by the way. I cannot stress enough. And the reason it's so amazing is because when you take a sample size of 40 different countries, over 50 different individuals that are grown, reasonable adults that have a lifetime of experience before them, that have been with RHINO for 3 years, so they understand what it is that we're trying to do, understands the message and understands the passion behind it, and they're able to take all of that and then translate it from where they live in a unique spot around the globe. And then you take all of that and collaborate it together, unify it to create one message. You know how powerful that is? That's like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And the point being, RHINO always led with RHINO Street because that's the crown jewel. That is the value proposition of RHINO. We were able to peel back the onion and identify, well, the reason why people have so much money being made off them that they don't make themselves. Good morning. Oh, hey, Phil. The reason why people are able to make so much money for other people and not for themselves is because no individual represents a adequate or valuable sample size. For instance, if I'm trying to sell something and my neighbor says, hey, I like it, do I go make a whole marketing message because my neighbor likes that one? No, my neighbor represents one person. Therefore, his individuality is worth nothing to me. And it's worth nothing to him. He cannot go anywhere and say, hey, listen, I'll do this. Now pay me $1 billion. But the entire town's collaborative behavior is worth a lot, right? Like the human race's collaborative behavior is worth a lot. The demographic of 25 to 34 women or 45 to 54 men, all those things are worth a lot. But the only people that are able to actually harness that value are large tech companies that are able to put out a free product, have a lot of people go ahead and use it, adopt to it, and they go ahead and then track those people's data. In tracking their data, they learn that, hey, Mike likes to do this, and then people like Mike like to do this, and because Mike is friends with this person and that person's cousin likes to do this, now we have a good sample size of data. Let's go ahead and collaborate with that company, that company, that company. That person knows what they get for breakfast. That person knows what they do for lunch. That person knows what they do for dinner. That person knows what websites they go on. That person knows what messages they send. That person knows their politics. Let's all get together, get into a room. We'll call it a marketplace. Now I'm Nike. I come to this marketplace and say, hey guys, I would like to know everything about everyone that's in this region. So then there's a middleman company that says, okay, I got the data from XYZ, ABC. I'll go ahead and sell it. And you know what? You don't even really need it. Well, you have a marketing team, great. But if you don't, we're marketers. We'll do it too. This is what it's going to cost. And you're going to actually make money on this because the data costs us $1. You're going to get like $3.50 out of it. So we'll charge you $2.50. And Nike's like, yeah, duh, that'd be cool. But where'd the money come from? The money and all the data and all the sales came from farming you, right? Like from breeding you, from nurturing you. And all the while, you're just expected to go ahead and buy that stuff, because if you don't buy that stuff, that data is worth nothing. Because the thing that we have that they still can't take is our ability to transact. Yeah, they can predict our transactions. They could try to nudge them, but they can't force them. And while that's still the case, while we still own our transactions, the idea is if we're able to go ahead and identify how they're taking it, let's take the transactions away from them and invest in those transactions ourselves. Well, okay, how do we do that? I don't know what you're buying. I don't know what you're buying. Let's make this really simple. How about everyone buys the same thing, $1 a week, and everyone just commits to doing it? And then we tell more people and more people and more people. And when everyone buys the same exact thing for $1 a week, and that thing is limited and it's tradable and it's monetizable and it's investable and it's profitable, then great, that's our thing. Oh yeah, you guys have this, we have our thing. Now we're able to speak, now we're able to have a voice because we collectively are unified around something that has power and money. Even that messaging sounds like, that sounds great, but I don't know what you're talking about. So we're leading with the RHINO Street, which has always been the value proposition. It's always been the crown jewel, because RHINO Street is a localized search engine. And someone told me the other day, that already exists, right? Like you could go on Google this and blah, blah, blah. And that's when it dawns on me, well, that individual doesn't know what we're doing. It's not that they don't know, because that individual is going to watch this. So I want to make it very clear. There's so much, the core of RHINO is not the functionality, it's the freedom, right? Like, so Google could offer you anything. I'm sure Google could make me a plastic doll that feels like a real human that, I could make dinner for something, right? It's not that they can't do it, but now that plastic doll that makes me dinner is reporting back to them everything I make. And then when one day I want a burger, the plastic doll's like, you don't have a burger, but here, buy it from Folgers, which makes coffee, but whatever. And I'm like, yeah, duh, like buy it from them to get the burger. I'm no longer buying it from my local store. I'm buying it from like some company somewhere. That's how the siphon comes out of the community. So what RHINO Street does, it's not that we function better than them. Google will always kick our butts on every function possible. But if we know, and this is where RHINO's value proposition comes from, that 100% certainty, guarantee, comfort, that when you're on RHINO Street, you are only getting the businesses within 20 miles from you that opted into doing so, that want to be there, that, we don't go ahead and just bring people in. They have to opt in. But the people that all the results on RHINO Streets are only those that opted in, and there is no marketing. They are not allowed. There's no services offered. You couldn't market if you wanted to, right? Like we didn't make that for a reason. So no one on RHINO Street could say, okay, well, I have this like shoe business. I really would like to sell more shoes. I want to sell them like everywhere. I would like to be on RHINO Street all over the place. Like, can you go ahead? I'll pay you $1 million right now that if you could put my shoe place up on the entire country so that when people type in shoes, they only buy from me, ha, 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 ha. And I'll say, go kick rocks, bro. Like, buy. Because you can't do that. That's not RHINO Street. RHINO Street is not functionality. RHINO Street is not the gizmos and gadgets, and this is the best thing ever. RHINO Street is the comfort that you know that when you're there, you're home. That you are now part of the solution. That you can feel comfortable telling the next person, because when everyone gets in, you are the solution. Because RHINO is twofold, right? If we're able to go ahead and identify and take back our transactions and invest in them so that we keep that money, and at the same time, we're able to shut off the spend that we're sending out that they're taking from us, everything is still voluntary. It's not like Google comes to your house and puts a gun to your head and says, hey, listen, you have to buy these Nike shoes. Their whole business is that you have no alternative, that they're able to go ahead and do this marketing, take this data, put this in front of you. And because you have no other place to go, you're like, okay, great, I'll do it. And because you're I don't want to say stupid, but they assume that because you're uneducated, you don't know that you're actually the one destroying your own community. And the problem is, once everyone destroys their whole entire community, now you're completely dependent on government and big business. And I can promise you, if government and big business both have 100% control over your life, do you think they're going to say, oh, you're having a bad day? No problem. No problem. Hey, listen, you want just no problem. That's what you think is going to happen? Because it's not. And the problem is, when you are able to see that far down the road, you then know in that moment you're going to say to yourself, darn, I really wish we did something about this. Now take that thought, rewind it 10 years, and here you are right now. You can do something about it. That's RHINO. So the pivot that we made from RHINO Street to RHINO Bucks was to go ahead and welcome in an audience that was able to fund the program going forward by offering something of such immediate gratification that everyone's making out. And to the proof in the pudding, RHINO Bucks is at a new all-time high today. And everyone that's ever sold, this is a true statement, everyone that's ever sold RHINO Bucks ever has lived to regret it. Every single person that ever sold RHINO, this is a true sentence, like really grasp the magnitude of this. Everyone ever that's ever sold RHINO Bucks has sold it lower than where it is today. And I've purposely said, I've said out loud plenty of times, everyone is free to buy and sell RHINO Bucks. I'm not here to go ahead and put caps on a market, but I will tell you, I will punish you. And I will punish you by continuing to work my tail off and making that coin go up. So that when you sell it, you sit there and you go, you know, I've been in RHINO for how long? I then jump out at $1.40 and it's now $1.80. I've been in RHINO for how long? I jump out at $1.80, it's now $3. Why did I do that? Darn. I'm completely comfortable telling you that's how I'm going to punish you because I'm vocalized. I'm like telling you. So it's at that point, it's you punishing yourself because I'm telling you. It's like when you marry someone and they say, oh, by the way, I don't cook breakfast and I never will. And then you're like, oh, well, you know, when they marry me, they're going to cook breakfast. And then they don't cook breakfast. And you go to your friend and you're like, oh my God, he doesn't cook breakfast. I wish I could get a guy that cooks breakfast. And they're like, yeah. And the guy looks at you like, I told you this. Like, you're punishing yourself because you believed I was going to do something other than what I said I was going to do. I'm telling you, I'm going to make the coin continue going higher. So if you want to sell, God bless. So that's why we pivoted to RHINO Bucks, but now we're going back to RHINO Street. And if you remember and recall, I've always said along the whole way, we don't know what we don't know. We're going to learn it as we go. And what we've learned in the last week was RHINO Bucks, when we have so many in RVP sharing their experiences with us, it's no longer just out of my own brain. You got to remember, when I speak about RHINO Bucks to anyone, I only have the experience of what they're saying to me. I only have the experience of how I'm able to present it, being the person that knows everything about it, to an audience that is actually receptive to me because they look at me as a position of authority. My conversation with that individual cannot be representative of how RHINO Bucks is going to spread the world. In fact, I'm having difficulty in my position of privilege. And what I mean by privilege is I know RHINO Bucks and I'm speaking to someone who looks at me as a position of authority. I'm looking at my difficulty in a position of privilege and saying, oh man, I got to figure it out. And then at this, I'm now learning that others that are like, A, I don't know everything about RHINO Bucks like you do. And B, I'm just someone's friend. They look at me like I'm a complete do-to-do. That's not fair. So what is the takeaway from this? Well, Anthony can speak about RHINO Bucks because he knows about RHINO Bucks and the person speaking to him looks at him as a position of authority. That's worked. Okay, so we can always improve upon that, but how do we make that the centerpiece? How do we move the onus of RHINO Bucks from where it currently is to exactly what we just said? Well, I believe everyone can speak of RHINO Street, and in fact, that's what we've learned in RVP. Everyone knows RHINO Street like the back of their hand. Everyone's here not because of me. They were here because there are people here that would be here. Well, I don't want, if Anthony passed away tomorrow and you could trust someone 100% that they were going to carry on the goal of RHINO Street, the search engine, that person would stay here because RHINO Street is the meat. Like I'm like the waiter, right? Like you really, really like me. You might go to the bar because I'm bartending for you. But if I was serving you garbage, you'd be like, Aunt, I love you, but I'm here for the martini, right? The point being, because people can speak of Rhino Street so passionately from their soul, and I'm telling you, I have a complete couple of paragraphs from one of our RVPs in Nigeria, one of our RVPs in France, one of our RVPs in Mexico, one of our RVPs from Montana. And they read like the most amazing marketing ad you could ever hear because it comes from their heart and what their experience is on the ground. And now when you take those from all these different places, you realize that Rhino Street is a passion. The people here share it because they all looking for a solution. They all recognize, all right, Aunt, duh, we all know something's wrong. Okay, great. Your identification of the search engine is the first fresh take with the viable solution that makes sense to us. Therefore, Rhino Street, in the frame and in the bumpers of how we all agree can be a solution, is why we're here. Now, when that becomes fact, which I just stated, like that is fact, that's what they believe, they're able to now speak on it. So for instance, if I like the Jets, the New York Jets, and you like the New York Jets, the fact is we both like the New York Jets. But why I like the New York Jets and why you like the New York Jets might be different. Therefore, we can have a different messaging to different people, but achieve the same goal because they're now convinced to like the New York Jets. One might like them because the quarterback, one might like them because the running back, one might like them because the coach. It doesn't matter. They're coming into the Jets as a fan. So everyone's treated fairly. Everyone comes in for what they're looking for, but now you take something and create multiple infinite value propositions to an infinite amount of people. Therefore, how can Rhino ever go ahead and take that away from Rhino? So in my position as team leader, I have to make a choice. Do I believe it's better to lead with Rhino Bucks that puts people in a poor position of not being able to explain it properly to people that aren't receptive to listening to them, especially in the face of the headlines of crypto scams? Or do I make the decision to pivot towards leading with Rhino Street, where everyone here passionately loves it because they accept it as a solution and they can speak from their heart going forward, that if someone asks them a question, they're able to answer it immediately because everything from there is from heart. And if I lead with Rhino Street, once the member is in Rhino, I'm now able to speak to them about the Rhino Bucks and say, hey, since you're here, let me share with you the digital economy that we built around it. If you like Rhino Street, I believe you're going to like Rhino Bucks as well. So the question then becomes, well, Ant, that makes a lot of sense, but nobody's here to do anything for free. Like, Ant, if we were all millionaires, we'd be here for free. And I get that. I believe that. I'm not saying otherwise. But it's also not fair to go ahead and accept free labor just because your heart is the currency. That's what people do to teachers. We'll pay you garbage because your heart is the currency. You love children. We're going to take advantage of that and pay you nothing. I don't do that. So the program that we're building out with Eric, the new Warp Speed, is exactly that we're able to empower everyone to lead with Rhino. We're able to collaborate and unify everyone's message to a lander page, allow others to opt in. When they opt in, they're tagged for life. And while they're in, anything that they do going forward for the lifetime is going to be credited to you. Now, what's credited and how that works is still the debate or the negotiation or the thought process. But say, for instance, you welcome someone into Rhino Street. They're like, yeah, duh, I would love to be part of the solution. I'll list, I'll do this, I'll do that. But immediately just them opting in. So they put in their email and they're like, yeah, I'm part of Rhino. That individual, if they step into Rhino Bucks, if they step into Rhino Store, if they step into anything Rhino, we're going to come up with affiliate structure that allows you to be paid for a lifetime. That's when you're now able to see, wow, this is that opportunity. I could get bazillions of people into Rhino Street. Anthony knows how to speak to them. He's constantly improving. Rhino's constantly improving. I feel comfortable. Let me just get them over there. And then if I could go ahead and be credited and compensated for the rest of my life there, well, I'm now making passive income and might be in the millions. Because as anyone knows about Rhino, we're not interested in like one-time payments. I think that's silly. I don't think it's fair to you to say, okay, I'm going to bring you my mother for $1, right? Like, no. Anything that anyone does for the lifetime, you should receive recurring off of it. So say, for instance, your mother says, all right, I want to buy 5 Rhino coin. I keep calling it Rhino coin. I love Rhino coin, Rhino Bucks. I want to buy 5 Rhino Bucks a month for the rest of my life. Well, I don't know the credit, the reward that's going to go to you. I have to figure out the proportions, the percentages, and blah, 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 blah. But is it conceivable that we bonus 5%, which means the 5 coin that she's buying every month for the rest of her life, 0.25 is going to you every month for the rest of your life, right? Because RHINO is not interested in you being mercenaries. RHINO at the core is a community that lasts infinitely. Because RHINO Bucks only works if the commitment is that this makes sense long term. Therefore, no one in RHINO is interested in saying, hey, Brian, great, like you did good, here's your check, now do good again next month. No, it's, hey, Brian, you did great. Continue the good work, but like this is what you have going forward. Well done. I know I'm 15 minutes over, so I'm going to go, but I really felt good about today's call. In fact, I actually have to go because I have to run an errand and take a meeting at 11 o'clock. It's now 10:25. So I absolutely love all y'all. I have RVP today at 2 o'clock. And I believe, and not to put words in your mouth, but I actually feel for the first time that the direction that we're going is the most coherent. I really can't explain to you that the challenge from my behalf is the pressure of being in a position that so many trust and so many depend on, which is good. I'm okay with that. But not having the cohesive message to know how to get to the next point. That I'm constantly fighting every single day. Like, how do I get there? But I need to keep going until that happens. And I'm here to tell you that I honestly think right now it just happened. Everything I just explained to you is what I've never felt better about RHINO than I do right now. And I'm totally biased, but I think I always put myself on the other side of this computer. I've never felt better. So I love you. I will see you tomorrow. RVP, I'll see you later today. And next week will be better than last week, but not as good as the week afterwards. Bye, everyone.